Do you remember watching Final Destination as a teenager? For most of us, it was this exciting, almost funny horror movie about cheating death. But have you watched it lately as a full-blown adult? Because it feels chillingly different now. The real horror isn't the gore anymore. It's the terrifying thought that our biggest fear is no longer dying, but running out of time. The Final Destination franchise was a sleepover staple for so many of us. A millennial rite of passage into early 2000s horror. We laughed, we jumped, and we couldn't stop talking about all of the insane death traps. It was our guilty pleasure, a perfect slice of pop culture that gave us a brand new, irrational fear of log trucks, tanning beds, and roller coasters. But something weird happens when you revisit these films after a decade or two of adulting. That thrill hasn't just faded. It's been straight up replaced by a cold, creeping dread. The central idea of the movie, which used to be a fun what if, now feels like this profound, unsettling commentary on the anxieties that basically define being an adult. Death isn't just a clever villain anymore. It's a metaphor for the crushing weight of inevitability we all start to feel as we get older. The real horror isn't the blood and guts anymore. It's that chillingly familiar feeling of being completely powerless. So when you're young, death is abstract, something in movies or something that happens to other people. But once you hit your 30s, mortality starts to get real. I mean, let's be honest. You start going to more funerals than weddings. You see friends and family deal with health scares, and you become painfully aware that life is both fragile and short. Real quick, just want to say, if you're enjoying this type of video and want to see more just like this one, do me a favor, hit that like button. Also hit that subscribe button too. This is where Final Destination completely transforms. The core idea that an unseen force is just fixing a glitch in its design clicks with the adult realization that some things are just out of our hands. Death in these movies isn't a monster you can fight or a killer you can outsmart. It's an absolute. It's a pitiless force that turns a trip to the dentist or a day at the gym into a death trap. That's not a jump scare, that's literally existential dread. The fear is no longer about how you die, but the terrifying certainty that you will die, and the universe doesn't give a shit about your plans. Oh man, and the death scenes. Those death scenes, man, as kids, we saw them as these intricate, almost funny setups, right? But as an adult, they become this terrifying metaphor for the dangerous balancing act of life itself. Just think about how many things you juggle every single day. A career, bills, relationships, maybe a mortgage, or kids. You're constantly trying to keep dozens of plates spinning. The anxiety comes from knowing that if just one plate drops, the whole system could crash. One missed payment, one forgotten appointment, one bad day at work. It can feel like the trigger for an all-out catastrophe. That is the very essence of a Final Destination death sequence. It's a domino effect of dread. A fan isn't working, which causes a leak, which makes a puddle, which causes a slip, which knocks over a rack, which hits a circuit breaker, which sparks a fire. It's a chain reaction of small problems that build into unavoidable disaster. To an adult, this isn't just clever horror filmmaking. It's our deepest anxieties about control and consequence put on screen. It perfectly captures that feeling that we're always just one tiny unforeseen event away from everything falling apart. The horror isn't the final bloody death scene. It's the agonizing and suspenseful journey there. Watching all the pieces fall into place and being totally powerless to stop them. One of the most powerful parts of this entire franchise is how it gives the characters a little hope. Through premonitions and patterns, right? The survivors think they can understand death's design and somehow cheat it. They search for signs, trying to predict the next move and stay one step ahead. This desperate attempt to force order onto chaos is maybe the most painfully relatable part of the movies for an adult. Because what is being an adult, if not a constant, exhausting effort to manage risk and control the future? We make 5-year plans, we have retirement accounts, we try to eat healthy, we go for checkups, we do everything we can to build a stable, predictable life and protect ourselves and our families from harm. We live under the illusion that If we're just careful enough, if we plan well enough, we can steer our lives where we want them to go. These movies hold a mirror up to that impulse and show us how futile life really is. Every single film hammers home the same brutal lesson. You can't cheat death. No matter how smart you are, no matter what patterns you find, the end is always the same. Death's design is absolute, and all of this taps right into a deep adult fear, which is, despite all of our planning and effort, we're not really in control. The universe is chaotic and doesn't care, and our carefully built lives can be shattered in any instant by forces we can't predict or prevent. It's a terrifying thought, and honestly, it feels way more real after turning 30. But this brings us to the real heart of it, right? The main reason this franchise hits so differently as we get older is because when you're young, the villain of Final Destination is death, but when you're older, you realize the true villain isn't dying, it's running out of time. And this creates a psychological horror that really resonates with the pressures of adult life. As you get older, time itself starts to cause anxiety. There's pressure to hit career goals, start a family, travel, make your mark on the world, all before your clock runs out. The fear of unfulfilled potential, of leaving things unsaid or undone, can be way more terrifying than death itself. And this fear of wasted time drives the Final Destination series. The characters aren't just fighting to stay alive. They're dealing with sudden, fucked up news that their future has been straight up wiped out. And the franchise also digs into survivor's guilt and PTSD, which adds a whole other layer of adult complexity. They're not just scared, they're grieving, they're traumatized. And that emotional weight feels so much more significant now than it ever did when we were teens. The real power of Final Destination, in my opinion, is its ability to take our abstract fears and make them terrifyingly real. It speaks to a very specific set of anxieties that only get louder with age. So what do you think? Which Final Destination death has stuck with you the most? And has your reason for it changed over the years? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this trip down a dark memory lane, consider liking and subscribing for more deep dives into the movies that shape us, just like this one. What makes Final Destination hit so much harder after 30 is its slow transformation from a simple teen slasher into a profound realization of being human. Oddly enough, I think these movies offer a strange kind of comfort by forcing us to confront the terrifying reality that our time is short and we're not in control. So now you have to decide, if you can't control how or when you die, how will you choose to live?